All right, this is the point in the show every Friday. We talk about the things we can't wait to see when Sunday, or in this case, technically Saturday, rolls around. Charean, what do you have first on your list this Friday?
Well, Mike, I'm looking forward to the Sooner Bowl. Jalen Hurts transferred from Alabama to Oklahoma, and Kyler Murray, of course, transferred from my alma mater, Texas A&M, to Oklahoma, where he won the Heisman Trophy, and they're going to be going at it. And I want to see, can Jalen Hurts do what he did in his first start in a second start, now that there's a lot of film on him, now that they've seen. Arizona's going to find out, Mike, that he's not the statue that Daniel Jones and Colt McCoy were last week. And he's going to move around, and he's going to make them try to keep him in the pocket. Good luck with that. And he played great last week, threw for 167 and ran for over 100. And I just thought he played an outstanding game in his first start. And I'm eager to see what he's going to do for the rest of the year. I think it's his job the rest of the year. And if he does well the rest of the year, I think it's his job next year too.
Cardinals have experience in the division with Russell Wilson, also at their own practices with Kyler Murray. And whatever game plan they have, here's hoping it's better than what the Saints had, because the Saints weren't ready for it. They hadn't given up a 100-yard rusher in 55 games. They gave up 2 in the same game, one of whom was quarterback Jalen Hurts. And they also need Kyler Murray to get it going again. He's had 4 straight games now under 50 yards rushing after he had been so dominant for most of the season. To the extent the shoulder injury has been a factor, it's got to be healed or close to it by now. It's been 4 weeks. So that should be a great game with playoff implications for both teams. The thing about adding a 7th seed in the postseason field for the AFC and the NFC, it creates more games late in the season that are relevant to the postseason, getting in, clinching a spot, ultimately getting a seed, maybe a more favorable seed than you otherwise would get. So the Eagles very much alive, and I keep looking at Week 17 as the potential winner-take-all between Washington and Philadelphia for the NFC East. My first one, can the Browns avoid a letdown? Will they respond to their almost close but no cigar game on Monday night against the Ravens with the deflating victory? Will they respond the way that they should? Not in a woe is us and we let one loss become 2. That's one of Sim's big talking points, and I've seen that play out for multiple teams this year. Don't let one loss become 2. Don't get so caught up in what happened in one game that you can't turn it around and be what you need to be the next game. And I think there's many reasons for Browns players, coaches, and fans to feel very good about what happened on Monday night. But still, short week, 6 days, got to turn it around and get back out there. And they're going to be playing a team that is even more desperate than the Browns to get a victory. The Browns, barring a total collapse, they're getting in. The Giants, they may be in the midst of their collapse. They need this one more than the Browns need it. That's what happened to the Browns to a certain extent on Monday night. The Ravens needed it more than the Browns. This week, the Giants need it more than the Browns. Can the Browns recover from what happened Monday, deliver the knockout punch to the Giants, punch their ticket to the playoffs, and get on the trajectory that we think they should be on because of what we've seen from them the past 2 weeks, even though they lost Monday night? So, Charean, I think they can. I think they will. But we've seen teams that have those heartbreaking losses need another week to turn it back around.
Yeah, I saw some percentages today from ESPN, Mike, that if the Browns win, they're a 95% chance to get in the postseason. And yes, of course they are. First time since 2002 they would do that. If they lose, they're still well above 50%. I think it was 68% if they lose. They're going to get in the playoffs, but they want to be rolling when they get in there. And I think we've seen a different Baker Mayfield over the last 3 weeks. He has 8 touchdowns, 1 interception. He's only taken 2 sacks, 312 yards per game in that 3-game stretch. And I really do believe, Mike, that they are a better offense without Odell Beckham, and he is a better quarterback without Odell Beckham because he can spread the ball around and not have to think about, I've got to target Odell or he's going to get upset. There's none of that. And on top of that, they can commit to the run. They have the best 1-2 punch in the NFL at running back. That allows them to run the ball, let Baker pick and choose his spots, throw it to whoever's open, and he's done a great job of that. He really has taken a huge step, kind of the step that we thought he would take before now, but I think we're starting to see it now.
He explained earlier this week that the bye week gave them an opportunity to take a step back, look at what they were doing wrong, look at what they were doing right, improve the passing game that way because they didn't have the benefit of an offseason program or preseason. Those reps that you would use to get yourself ready to go right out of the gates. Now we've seen that since the bye week. Baker Mayfield has been very good, and they had won every game they played up until Monday night. So huge game for them. All right, Charean, what's next on your list of what you can't wait to see?
Well, Mike, I want to see if Tom Brady and the Bucs offense can get rolling, and they're pretty much out of time right now. They've got to do it now. They've got to get into the playoffs and then be rolling once they get in the playoffs. And Mike, I have this lawnmower, right? And it got some bad gas in it. I had let gas sit there a little bit, put the gas in. Now it's bad gas. So sometimes it runs great, and sometimes it just decides it's not going to run that day and shuts off on me, and just you have to wait a while, and then you pull it again, and eventually it'll start. That's what the Bucs offense really reminds me of. They've kind of been start and stop all year long and really just haven't been the offense I think we all expect them to be with all those playmakers they have on there. And one of the big differences is Brady's interceptions in the losses. In their 5 losses, he has 8 touchdowns and 9 interceptions. He's only thrown 11 interceptions this season. So it's those losses, him turning the ball over in those losses, that's really been a problem. But I would like to see him find some connection with Mike Evans that just hasn't happened so far. And this might be the first time in Mike Evans' career that he doesn't go over 1,000 yards.
Curious to see if, yet again, now with Ronald Jones on the COVID list, we will see more Leonard Fournette. So the LaShawn McCoy supplanting Leonard Fournette is going to have a pin put in it. But the Antonio Brown playing time, how it dropped from 75% to below 50, is that part of a strategic trend coming out of the Buccaneers bye? And another thing I've noticed, all of a sudden, Bruce Arians, it's all sunshine and rainbows and lollipops between him and Tom Brady after all that criticism. And some of it was overt, some of it was passive aggressive. And then this week, Arians says, I don't know why everyone criticizes Tom Brady. It's like, dude, you were criticizing him all year long. And they create an offense that isn't suited to Tom Brady, and then they create the impression that the offense is Tom Brady, and anything that doesn't go wrong is his fault. So, yeah, they need to get it rolling, not simply to keep winning now to get to the postseason, because they should. They've got the Falcons, Lions, and Falcons to finish it out. If they don't go 11-5 or 10-6, something's very wrong. But they need to get to the point where when the playoffs roll around, if they're the 5 seed and they go to Washington or New York or Philadelphia in the wild card round, and then they have to go to Green Bay in the divisional round, a team they beat 38-10 this year, and in a place where it's going to be cold. And I remember all those years where the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have never won a game when the mercury at kickoff was below 40 degrees Fahrenheit. Well, now you got Tom Brady, the ultimate cold weather quarterback, as your guy, and you've got plenty of guys who have come from other teams that know how to play in the cold. They can be very dangerous in the postseason. Bruce Arians has said it, that the home field advantage doesn't matter this year. Doesn't matter if they have to go on the road. And they could get to the NFC Championship game pretty quickly. The question is, could they beat the Saints or whoever else they would be playing? But this Buccaneers team can still be very dangerous, even though they had that stretch of 3 losses in 4 games and got blown off the field by the Saints. Speaking of the Saints, next one for me, can the Saints outscore the Chiefs? It's that simple. As we said earlier, you're not going to shut them down. You're not going to shut them out. You just have to outscore them. And now that Drew Brees is back, Michael Thomas out, Taysom Hill back in his quarterback of all trades role, will they get Alvin Kamara involved more in the running game? Will they use him extensively? What will Emmanuel Sanders do? They need to find a way to score points. It needs to be a shootout because you're not going to hold the Chiefs down. And if you build a lead, you better hold on to your hats because we know what happens when a team gets up by 10 or more points against the Chiefs. That's when lightning strikes. So that's what it comes down to. The only team that beat the Chiefs this year scored 40 points. That's what it's going to take. It's going to take more than 30 to beat the Chiefs. Can the Saints do it, Charean?
Yeah, and Mike, they had two shootouts earlier this year, and they lost both. And they were in back-to-back games. They gave up 34 to the Raiders and 37 to the Packers, and they lost 34-24 and 37-30. So it is going to take I agree with you, that 40-point milestone for them to win this game. And that's what they weren't able to do in those 2 losses they had earlier. And one of those 2 losses or both of those losses are going to come back to bite them, probably, with the Packers likely to get home field advantage throughout the postseason and get that first week bye that the Saints aren't going to get. And if they had just beaten the Raiders way back then they'd have a better chance of doing that now. So they do have to score a lot of points. This is a crucial game for them and trying to win, stay in that race for that home field advantage if they're going to do that. If they lose this one, as you said, Mike, it's over. The Packers are going to get that spot.
What do you have next on your list of things you can't wait to see?
Well, I want to know, Mike, if the Steelers can right the ship. They look like the Titanic right now. They're really taking on some water. Can they plug up those holes and get the ship back on the track? Started out, of course, 11-0, and now they've lost their 2 games. And they averaged in the first 10 games almost 30 points a game. And now in the last 3 games, they've averaged 17 points. They're just not the same team. Ben Roethlisberger, the last 4 games, has had a passer rating below 90. It doesn't help that his receivers are dropping passes left and right. They can't run the ball. They're last in the league in 31st in rushing. The last team, Mike, to get to a Super Bowl, to have a rushing offense that bad was the Colts in 2009. They were actually 32nd in the league in rushing offense when they got there. And, of course, they didn't win that Super Bowl. They lost to the Saints. So they've got to find a rushing game. They've got to find their receivers catching the ball. They've got to get Ben throwing the ball down the field, which they haven't been able to do. See if they can get that offense clicking again. We know their defense is good. It's all going to come down to Big Ben and how that offense can play as to how far the Steelers can go this season.
We had Ed Bouchette with us last week talking about the Steelers and their struggles in the running game. And he said that he had spoken to Jerome Bettis. I went back and read the article where Bouchette gets some feedback and some input from Bettis about the running game. And he made a great point. You commit to the running game, not out of the blue. You commit to the running game in training camp. You decide that this is what we are built upon. This is who we are. And they never made the full commitment to the running game. They have badly gotten away from it, whether it's Ben Roethlisberger audibling to passes or they're doing a lot of RPO concepts and he's choosing to throw when he could hand it off. They're not mauling guys at the line of scrimmage. James Conner, when he came back last week, had 18 yards, on 10 carries. That's not going to get it done. And they can't just keep throwing these 4 and 5 yard passes, getting their receivers blown up. That's one of the reasons why they're dropping the football. They're getting hit as soon as they catch the pass because the defensive backs know what the game is. So they've got to get this right, and what better chance to do it than on Monday Night Football against the Bengals. But boy, if the Browns win Sunday night and the Bengals somehow upend the Steelers, and when a team's losing games, I want to see them win before I will conclude they've fixed their problems. If the Bengals would win that game, makes for an interesting final 2 weeks because the Steelers have the Colts and then the Steelers have the Browns. There's still a chance Week 17 is going to come down to Steelers at Browns in Cleveland for the division title. Not as big of a chance because the Browns lost Monday night, but still a chance that the Steelers can't get it turned around. Next one for me, the Vikings and the Bears are facing off in, as a practical matter, an elimination game, although I don't think the winner is going to make it to the playoffs either. The loser is done. And with Mitchell Trubisky back, he's matched up well against the Vikings. He's played well against the Vikings, even though he's also gotten injured twice against the Vikings. There was a game 2 years ago, Week 17, and the Vikings just needed to win to get into the playoffs, and the Bears weren't playing for anything, and Trubisky and the Bears beat the Vikings. And I think if Trubisky was playing when the Bears and the Vikings played on Monday night earlier this year, Trubisky would have won the game because the Bears would have converted some early opportunities into points, made the Vikings desperate, and their offense would have crumbled. Trubisky can beat the Vikings. Trubisky can play well enough to help the Bears pull the inside straight to get to the playoffs this year. When you look at the Cardinals' schedule down the stretch, you look at the Bears' schedule down the stretch, it is not an impossibility. And it starts with the Bears winning on Sunday. Can Trubisky do it? What will the Bears think of Trubisky if he does? What will other teams think of Trubisky if he does? He's going to be a free agent after the season. And it's becoming pretty clear. I don't know that it was a mistake at the time to go with Nick Foles, but over the passage of weeks, they probably would have been better off sticking with Trubisky. And now Trubisky may be the guy who saves them, Charean.
Yeah, no question, Mike. And they're going to get to find out what they have in him, and if they didn't already know. But he's playing at a better level. And I found his quotes from this week pretty interesting, Mike. He said that they're doing things offensively that I want to do. So were they not doing that before this week? I don't know. But in the past 3 games, they've averaged over 30 points a game, and he's really played well. So maybe he is taking that next step. Maybe it took sitting behind Nick Foles for a while for him to figure out what was going on, and for maybe the offensive geniuses on that side of the ball to figure out what he liked. I don't know, but they do look like a different offense over the last 3 weeks.
All right, time for one more each quickly. What's your next one?
I got, will T.Y. Hilton light up the Texans again? You know, his nickname is the mayor of Houston, and it's for a reason. He's just absolutely dominated the Texans. They played 2 weeks ago, 8 catches, 110 yards, and a touchdown. It was his first, I didn't realize this, his first 100-yard game in 2 years. 2018 was the last time he had one. Of course, he was pretty banged up last year. But in the last 3 weeks, 17 catches, 277 yards, and 4 touchdowns. T.Y. Hilton suddenly is looking like T.Y. Hilton again.
Yeah, for me, how many yards will Derrick Henry get? Because he's got 1,532 on the year. He's got a shot at 2,000 and a very, very outside shot at 2,105, which is the all-time single-season record. Adrian Peterson made a late-season assault on Eric Dickerson's record back in 2012. And look, there aren't many guys in the NFL that have a shot at averaging 191 to get to 2,105. It's like 156, I believe, to get to 2,000. How many yards does he get against the Lions? And then that will really set the stage for what kind of performance we need to see from him week 16 and week 17. But he's got a chance. He's got a chance. And look, I love to witness history. We all do. And we both really like Derrick Henry. He's been on the show this year. He's a great representative of the Titans. He's a modern-day Jim Brown and Charean. I'm hoping he gets at least 175, so he has an outside chance at 2,000 at a minimum, 2,105 maybe if everything falls just right.
Another thing on my list I love to see, Mike, I love to see him run every week. It's great, and he is a throwback player, and it's just fun to see. And I hope he does get there and make it exciting those last 2 weeks to see just how many yards he can churn up and see if he can get close to that record or break that record.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.